As the brainwashing and interrogation expert of the US government, and as someone who's trained intelligence agencies, PSYOPs, what's your perspective on the Trump assassination attempt?
We didn't have Twitter 50 years ago. And we didn't have independent people being able to just upload something off of their phone. And it is utterly incredible how much weird stuff is going on. We've got this guy who's able to be on top of this building. He was in a BlackRock financial commercial before. This weird amounts of things that don't really add up. And there's so much going on, and there's so much data now that it's really hard to parse through. And I think people are maybe at an all-time high of not really trusting what the narrative that's being pushed down, like the government says this, and there's so many people that are less trusting now. And I think maybe that happened during the pandemic, during all of that kind of stuff. And it's amazing that I'm not saying I know anything about what happened, but if you just go back like 300 years, like we've been doing crazy, weird stuff like this for a long time. And it's open now. Like these documents are open and stuff. And if you just look at all this crazy stuff that's been happening that we've been involved with, like the mind control, the MK Ultra programs, and the weird stuff that we've been doing, it's kind of the mindset of most people that like, oh, we did all of that stuff back then, and we have a demonstrated history of doing it. Yes, we acknowledge that all that stuff happened, but yeah, today we don't do that anymore, and everything's on the up and up. And I think that's one of the reasons that some people are being really distrustful, especially there's so much stuff that doesn't really fit together. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Maybe we can't.
If any of this happens, I go through a checklist in my head, and I've never said this out loud, but I go through a checklist in my head. Was there motive for a group to have done this? And that's just a yes or no. And I'll let you just answer that in your head if you want. Is there motive for a group to have done this? And then I look at this person that they're announcing as the shooter, and this is for any kind of shooting incident. And I look at the degree of suggestibility. How suggestible is that person? And could they have been made to do this? And it's just a yes or no. I'm not saying that anybody was, but I'm always thinking this way of like, maybe something else is going on, but I don't want to be the guy saying we need to always question the government. They're always lying to us. I'm not that guy at all. But I always think that way of, I train PSYOPs, and I train these people who do these kinds of things in other countries. They overthrow governments and they overthrow leaders. And I'm always looking at it from that perspective. Is there something going on? And there's a process that PSYOPs uses, that our government uses in other countries to overthrow leaders. And just looking at that, which is open information online, there's a lot of strangely similar stuff going on here. I'm not an expert on politics or anything like that, and I'm not saying anything about what's going on definitively, but this is bizarre, absolutely bizarre.
What makes you think it's bizarre? Just the lack of performance by the Secret Service?
Yeah, I was just, Joe Rogan said this very recently. He had a guest on. He said this episode or this season of USA is absolutely crazy. Like all of the things that lined up for this entire event looked like it was written for some kind of a TV show. Him standing up after him, barely getting killed. This shooter being in a BlackRock commercial, being on the roof for so long and no one does anything about it. It's like an episode of 24 is what it seems like. It seems like it was written out. It's just bizarre, weird.
So what are the things? So the fact...
It's just unbelievable synchronicity of all of these weird things, all these coincidences starting to happen, all kind of piling up. But I don't want anybody to think I'm some expert in this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
All right, I'll leave you a link if you want to listen to that whole thing, but the first 10 minutes are probably the most interesting. This guy's a brainwashing expert, works for the government, all about hacking humans, makes you feel like we don't really have a free will. Back when I was in back when I was in college. I was a biblical studies major, but I double majored. Ended up with a business, but for a while there, I was interested in psychology and social psychology as a major, and I got that feeling that we really are very suggestible, very programmed as people, like we're NPCs, and you just give the right prompts in the right order, and just about anything is possible. And we are definitely getting a lot of prompts right now. Lots of prompts, and the narrative, if you were to choose, if you were to have like a multiple choice, was it the lone gunman crooks, or was it a botched JFK style event, or was it Trump coming up with it on his own, or was it at the very upper levels the people who run the world orchestrated? Most people are choosing option B. They're going with the botched JFK. At least my informal surveys and what I'm getting the feelers of, people are going with the botched JFK idea. So if you listen to this fella in his whole talk, he goes into how it's difficult to be the lone person going against the crowd because we want to follow the herd. And I would agree with him on the reaction of the crowd. At first, we were very skeptical about how they reacted, but I remember in social psychology thinking crowd behavior is truly bizarre, and it is hard to predict unless you've run the scenarios enough to see how people behave as a group. So it's hard to. He does an analysis of the crowd on camera, and he doesn't feel like it's too bizarre the way they behaved, but to me, there's so many other red flags around this, just like he starts pointing out. I don't think you need to analyze the crowd behavior so much as the other anomalies around the event. But people, particularly groups of people, are very easy to manipulate, very predictable, very easy to use the herd instinct in them to go a certain direction. That's proven historically over and over and over again. Social psychology has established so many different scenarios where this is proven true. It's good to know about these things and also keep them in mind. But for this, I think everybody's clear on what I believe is going on. But from a larger scope, when he talks about how absurd reality is, and what's going on with reality now, there does seem to be a breakdown in the presentation. Like it's over the top, it's too much. And in some ways, these events, the manipulation of this world and the way people behave, unfortunately gives a little credibility to the David Icke soul trap. And now Isabella Green, she is the new player on the scene. I mean, she's getting too much attention out there. I've noticed that she's like blowing up all the interviews. She's got a book out. She's like the new deal, and she's going to tell you how to get out of the matrix, how to escape the manipulation and the deception. But I would say that I don't like her theories, and I don't like what she's presenting here. However, if we do believe that this reality mirrors, like it extends outward and larger, the greater reality might actually be or have a lot in common with this reality, and this physical reality is definitely very manipulated. So that always makes me wonder now, if I have an out of body, if I'm approaching the light, if I'm having my death experience and I'm going up there. I wasn't as skeptical of everything back in 2016. I was definitely skeptical of the physical world and the reality presented and the powers that be. But I had no skepticism or no inclination to doubt the spiritual side. So when I had my God encounter, there was no question in me about, okay, could I be getting duped here? And now I wonder, when I do have the death experience, am I going to raise a suspicious eyebrow? Am I going to be like, prove to me, whoever approaches me, prove to me, do you have an ID? Prove to me you are legitimately not a shapeshifter who's manipulating me right now. I mean, it makes you wonder how much of this can can be questioned. And I just lost my screen. Anyway, one thing about this reality, though, is it's very bizarre, and we all are having a interesting time with it and trying to figure it out. I want to go back to where I talked about Bashar yesterday and his take on the Mandela effect. I should include he didn't quite get it exactly right, because in his discussion telling about how the Mandela effect works, he was saying like some people remember a certain reality and a certain history, and other people remember a different reality and history, and they both have solid memories of it, and they're both correct. Well, that's not exactly how it works, because we have found, especially when it first came out and we were doing all the surveys, I found that 80% of the time people agreed with me and remembered things the way they used to be, and then it would take sometimes instantly, sometimes it would take a little longer, but they would like receive some sort of invisible download where they just like their expression on their face would change, and it's like, oh wait, no, that's not how it is, and they would just adapt to and get absorbed into whatever this current reality happens to be. We've all recognized this that are deeply in Mandela affected. We've also we have an understanding of flip-flops and how things flip-flop back and forth. And that's another fascinating thing. And that's another way to have dual memories, too. If you've lived in different realities where the timeline flip-flopped on you, you might have a dual memory of it just from the experience of having been there. Or vibrationally, you're picking up on that. Reality is still very strong, and it creates kind of a dual sense. But I just saw one last night. This is making me think about flip-flops. And the flip-flop that I had last night, my wife's reading the Harry Potter books to the children, and just watched the movie with them recently, the very first one. And my Mandela effect flip-flop with Harry Potter and the Scar, which the Scar seems to be merging now. We have a hybrid of both it being in the center and off to the side. But that's not really what the flip-flop was for me. The flip-flop was back in 2016, 2017, early 2017, a Mandela effect that wasn't super talked about, but it was enough for me, because Hagrid goes to retrieve Harry from the cabin, and Harry asks him like, oh, what this is about or whatever, and then Hagrid would say, "You're a wizard, Harry," or "Why you're a wizard, Harry," and back then it had changed, so I remember him saying "You're a wizard, Harry," but back then it was just "You're a wizard," and it like cut off the "You're a wizard, Harry." It was odd. It was like, and that was the Mandela effect. It's like, isn't he supposed to say "You're a wizard, Harry"? So now it's flip-flopped. Last night I'm watching it, and Hagrid once again says, well, "You're a wizard, Harry." It's weird how that happens, because briefly for a while for me that was a Mandela effect, and I discussed it with my oldest daughter, who's really into the series, and she didn't remember. I mean, but we had the conversations. I said, "Do you remember him and what he said?" So so that anchored that conversation with my daughter, kind of anchored it in that there was a Mandela effect at that time, and he was just saying "You're a wizard." But now it's back because I just saw the movie last night. Anyway, getting off topic, I suppose the whole point that I'm making is that reality just isn't very real and isn't to fully be believed. And the level of skepticism that I have around certain presentations has grown tremendously. But I did find that little I only got halfway through it, but I'll probably listen to the rest of this interview. I'll leave a link for those of you who find it interesting. I do concur with a lot of what he's saying about psychology, social psychology, the way people behave, and the way people manipulate and con and brainwash other people. It's funny what it relates to my corporate world greatly. It relates very much to what I experience in my corporate world. I do about 10 minutes of gaming a day. That's about all I do. But there's this game called Corpo Nation, and it's very, low graphics. You can see this is the kind of graphics you have. This is the screenshots. It's just basically you working for corporate America. And I laugh when I'm playing it. It's like, this is so true. This is just like my job. The you know, I have to always do these attestations, these clicking buttons and confirming things like this. I've given 110%. My stuff that I'm confirming is like disclosure and ethics and stuff like that. All kinds of. But I got these little buttons that I always have to push and confirm. I get your performance review. Your sort, and in this game, you do this dumb little sorting thing, and it gets a little more complicated as you go. But it's basically just like a little sorting game of memory. Remember which card goes where into which bucket. I said, this is just like work. This is what I do. Um, because of your distinctly average results, you receive no bonus or penalties. And it's funny because if you go against the system, if you go against the brainwashing of the corporatocracy of this game, it tries to penalize you. And if you go with the program, you just work hard, you try to get promoted, you do your best, you say things and do things in line with the brainwashing that is being dumped on you. Everybody around you is brainwashed to play by the rules and be a good employee. And part of the game is whether or not you're going to listen to the conspiracy theorists or the hackers, or the ones who want to go against the system, that want to break the system. So you're supposed to work hard every day and make a little bit of money, get your praise. You want to get your praise from your manager. That's such of a big deal. And you get these posters that say things like this. and you have these friends that you chat with, and you don't have a choice on what you choose your reply. Your reply is automated. It just gives it to you. But everybody, it's like, go company, go work harder. And then this employee here, Bellamy, and everybody's got like a number, just like at work, we all have numbers, and they are giving her the Employee of the Month award, and why she's so dedicated and all that, and everybody should just strive to be more like her. This is the game, Corpo Nation. It's a fun little game. Oh, I took a shot of, this is what my real world. So there's Corpo Nation screenshots. This is what my real world looks like with the training. This is I had this yesterday come up on my real world screen, and I thought, this is so funny. This is just like the game Corpo Nation. There's so many parallels to my real world job and Corpo Nation. Um, it's just, yeah. Please bask in the glory of a coveted personal note from your manager. The brainwashing that we go through. This is corporate America. It is brainwashing. Last week was a strong start to the quarter. If we continue in this matter, we will smash our quotas and really move the needle. I'm so sick of that move the needle phrase. There are lots of samples to be sorted, but I know that we will give 110% to make our beloved employer proud. Work hard. I think I'm going to do that at work. I think I'm going to make my sign-off signature just like this. Work hard. That would be funny. See if anybody catches the sarcasm. I do take some enjoyment of being sarcastic about corporate America at work without anybody realizing that I'm being sarcastic, like too over the top with my brainwashing and acting like I'm like the most brainwashed corporate employee. Rumors of workers attempting to unionize are running rampant. God, this game is a good chuckle. I mean, 10 minutes a day I play it, and I laugh at how much it simulates or represents what I do every day. Oh, and then in your spare time, what you're expected to do with the little bit of money you have after you pay all your bills, you're expected to do the state-approved gaming portal, which is some stupid little game like Street Fighter, and you play a round of that, and you can spend your money on that game to where you can level up faster if you want, or you can not. And you can also spend your money on buying things for your little room, your little apartment. Like you can buy a better bed, a better gaming chair, more posters. You can spend your money on that. There's different things to spend your money on. But the game is constantly encouraging you to spend all of your money and put it back into the economy. And I'm like, my God, this thing represents my life perfectly. Right now, a lot of my extra money is going towards plumbers at my house. So, but it is definitely all going back into the economy. Anyway, we are truly manipulated in this physical reality. The big question is how far does that manipulation extend out? How many rings and layers does it go? When we have an out of body, are we being met by the archons that are shapeshifters just giving us a presentation? Or can we trust it? Is there a way that we can know that we can trust it? Is there a way that we can say, oh yeah, this is the real deal now. This is legit. This is no longer a fake presentation. I'm no longer being manipulated. And then the big question is, why is there so much desire to manipulate us to begin with? And that theory dives into we are being consciousness, that we are soul energy generated beings that have the all spark or God spark in us, and we have this battery like power that can be siphoned. I will say this, as far as consciousness having that type of power, of course, quantum mechanics does suggest that exists. I mean, I think that's proven to exist. The observer effect, things like that, the water and the love, and all these different things. But there's also, with the Mandela effect, we find ourselves like when it comes to Mandela effects, it feels like the collective consciousness of the people around me locks in certain changes. Like it would really be hard for the Kit Kat dash to change back to having a dash again, because it just seems like it's just a really hard set-in Mandela effect, or Fruit Loops or something like that. But some of these more lesser-known ones, like Harry Potter's phrases in the movie, stuff like that, it just seems like that can flip-flop. Or what's more likely to occur is the blending, like the Chuck E. Cheese and Chuck E. Cheese's now having come together and merged, where reality's timeline allows for both to have existed. It seems like that is much more common, because it's like our consciousness has to have a believability behind it. Like we can accept a change in reality as long as we can link it to something that makes it seem more natural, seem more plausible. Even though all of us who really see the Mandela effect understand it and see through it, it seems like the world at large has to have an excuse for something to change. We have to have something has to give. We have to have permission for this reality to go this direction. That's all I'm saying. So as far as reality being created and connected to what we believe in our consciousness of awareness and all that. But right now, reality seems to really be believing in the botched JFK theory, and that's just the direction. And if you go against that, you're just really a POS and rejected by everybody in your social set. So sucks to be me. Anyway, wanted to share all that, and that's today's upload. I should get back to doing something, work at my corporate job here. So y'all have a great day, and God bless.